Good morning, good evening, and good night. Guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome to Foghorn 5. Are you tired of being too far away from your buddy and you can't hear him on the field? Today, we're gonna be talking about radios, more specifically, 3 levels of radios, starting from lesser price points to higher price points. I also wanna talk about alternatives in the real comm space. You know, everyone kind of thinks, oh, once you get up to the price point or whatever the level of, you know, using real comms, that it's like super expensive. It's really not. There's a lot of options out there that I've been kind of finding and figuring out. You could use real comms and it's pretty cost effective and it's a better product overall. We'll get to that at the end of the video. We're gonna be talking about radios, as you see here, push to talks, antennas, wires, and accessories, all to kind of get your gears turning on, oh, how should I set up my comms? If you're looking into this from a brand new perspective, this will give you a lot of insight. And if you're already, you know, kind of well versed in one of these levels of comms, I think we have some additional information to give you a better understanding of how to maybe, you know, set your comm setup to work a little bit more efficiently. So for this video, we have this TRI Replica Harris radio right here. My buddy Liam, this is his radio. We're borrowing it for this video. What's up, brother?
Hey guys, it's F.O.G. I brought this Butte right here that we're gonna be talking about soon. Not my first radio. I started off with the lower tiers and then I wanted the realism of a 152, so I bought this thing. I'm able to use different accessories on it that these normal radios don't usually have.
Of course, this is another replica. This pretty much in the civilian world is as close as we could get to a Harris. And even then, this will serve as a really good example because they function almost identically.
As someone who's owned pretty much almost every tier here of radios, you do not absolutely need to buy this one unless you're super crazy about looks. All these other radios, they work perfectly fine.
But before we jump right into the video, I'm gonna give you, the viewer, a huge shout out. We are almost at 5,000 subscribers. Pretty epic. Thank you guys so much for watching and all the support. Let's get into level 1 of comm setup. All right, guys, so here we go. This is level 1. This is about as cheap and as basic as you could get. With all these setups, you don't really need these additional things, but I'm going to be showing them kind of alongside their level. And none of these is really better than the other. It's just really what you want to spend and what your needs are. So let's get right into this. So these right here are walkie talkies. These are not considered radios, really. They're Midland walkie talkies. Any walkie talkie that's a decent brand is going to do just fine. They're going to be extremely limited. You can't do really anything with them as far as personalizing them, programming them. As far as I know, walkie talkies are all locked off to FRS channels. FRS channels are just basic civilian family channels. Everyone is basically on them. So that's one thing that you're going to be dealing with. You're probably gonna have to be searching through channels and changing them all the time because you're going to hear some foreigner speaking some random shit and you're all going to be laughing because like, bro, what the hell is going on in my radio, right? Walkie talkies too, they're locked off to like 20 channels. With FRS channels, antennas do not work. If you're on a FRS channel and you're using one of these other radios, which you can attach an antenna to, it's not going to be boosting your range. The plus sides, they all do work good. If you don't want to mess around with anything, they're already good to go. You know you're going to be safe and secure with a walkie-talkie, and it's nice and light. It's not going to be a big bulky thing that you're carrying on you. Don't think I would recommend a walkie-talkie for like a Milsim, but you know, your weekend games of Airsoft, that's going to serve you just fine. Very low price stuff, low budget. So this is just a in-ear. You could get these anywhere. There's a bunch of different types. This one just came with a radio I have. I've never really used it. There's better ones. I would recommend a better one, but essentially, you know, you just stick this in your ear because when you have these walkie-talkies just on, they'll be blaring out the speaker and everyone hears. So this will close off your comms setup and no one will hear you. And most times, little cheapy in-ears like this come with their own push-to-talk. Like this one has one right here. There are in-ears that kind of interface with an additive push-to-talk. Like this right here, this is what we call a Squawk Box. Really common. I'm sure you've seen truckers or police. I use the Squawk Box for, you know, every range of radio setup. I like this just depending on what I'm doing. It's just an easy, convenient way to run your comms. You don't need to have any headset on for this, which is nice. And then it breaks your radio away from your PTT because like you need to be close to talk to the radio. Obviously it can't be down here, so put your Squawk Box right here. This right here, I have it taped off, but it's a B-Tech. That's what I would recommend. I really like the B-Tech because unlike a lot of Squawk Boxes, there is a headphone jack. You could just plug in any headset that you have, your freaking Turtle Beaches, you know, you could plug them in. When you do that, it does close off the speaker, so nothing's coming out. Then this is used as your mic, so you still talk into it. Yeah, Squawk Boxes, they're great. There's another one we're going to show later that's a higher tier. This isn't really restricted to a low tier. I wouldn't say a Squawk Box is a low tier item. It's just probably a simpler setup. Probably pick up a set of walkie-talkies for 30 bucks, 40 bucks. This was 15 bucks as well. So very cheap setup. So yeah, that's level 1. Let's move on to level 2, probably the most common level. All right, guys, level 2, this is mid-tier. you know, this is gonna kind of be around the price point of, I don't know, anywhere between 50 to maybe like $200 to $300, just depends on what you kind of go out for. Let's go ahead and jump right into it and look at these radios right here. So we actually have two of the same kind of radios. These are all Baofens, or Baofen, however you want to pronounce it. Baofen is probably going to be the best option for just a general airsoft roll. And there's features with the Baofen that I even like over some of the cooler radios that are out there, like the TRI. These right here are Baofen's UV5Rs, and these right here are Baofen AR152s. Essentially, these are the same exact radio, right? This is Baofen's like military model, right? It kind of looks like the Harris. These black things on the top right here, I 3D printed these. These are just caps to not depress all the buttons. So when it's in your kit and you're running around, you're always pressing it by accident, so nothing is getting messed with anymore. These right here, I know they look a little different, but all this is an extended battery. This is more of the kind of practical version, so if you want more of that lightweight radio and you're not worried about the look, you could get the same thing in each radio as far as function, just kind of different aesthetics. These right here obviously are going to be a bit more expensive. They're about like 70, 90 bucks, depends on where you get them. And these are actually really cheap, 15 to 20 bucks, which is awesome. Baofen really delivers a great product with these little things right here because they are very capable. Differences with these other than looks, there's a couple functionality things as far as like how do you reach certain menus that they kind of differ just a little bit. Other than that, battery life on these is going to be a lot better. The bigger battery for the UV5R is obviously going to be better, and the small one is going to be not so better. So on all these, you could remove the batteries just like that. Same exact thing with the AR152s. These I actually like a lot more because with the UV5R, they charge on a charging bay, and the AR152s, they charge with a cord. Unlike the Walkie Talkie, you have batteries that you could buy multiple of, store. The battery life on these, which I primarily use, is really great. Don't think I even charged this thing for the first entire year that I had it. Not like I was using it every day or anything, but for, you know, the weekends that I kept going to play airsoft, and I didn't have to charge this thing. This, I can't say the same thing. These seem to kind of go down pretty fast, and then I've noticed that sometimes functionality is lost when the battery gets low, which is pretty obnoxious. So now let's talk a little bit of capability with these radios. The thing that I really like about them is you could preset them. There's a program that you could download for free on your computer called Chirp, and then you just get a little Kenwood to USB plug. You can fully program these things with a huge library of preset channels. It just gives you a giant drop-down list, and you could just type in whatever you want, name them whatever you want. When these radios turn on, you could even give them a little custom name, like mine says Foghorn or Fog1. There's channel mode, and then there's like a keypad mode where you type everything in and it displays the number, which you could swap between. But when you're in channel mode with your preset channels, it displays your channel names, which makes things a lot easier. I do have FRS channels, the same thing as the Walkie Talkies. I preset a list of FRS channels, and the reason I did that is because if I ever need to communicate with people with Walkie Talkies, I could do that on the fly. What I use on these and what I would recommend to use so you could get away from channels that like a bunch of people are on, like the FRS, is to use MURS or MERS. That's the multi-use radio service channels. Those are another more like kind of secure channels for civilians. The good thing with that too, with the MERS, your antennas actually do work. I also keep some emergency channels like NOAA, NOAA, regional emergency channels for weather. If there was an emergency, it would be reported on NOAA. And then with the capability to be able to channel surf like you can with these, we're gonna get into, a lot of people kind of, you know, hear the thing like, oh, do I need a license? Like, is this a dangerous thing to have? Technically you don't, because what you do need a license for is certain channels. You can't just go searching any channel and jump on there. That's when you get fined, depending on how serious it is, right? Like, you can't just go onto your local police department radio channel and just start talking. You could actually listen to it. That's why radio scanners exist, because you can't talk in a scanner, you could just listen. So with this, you can listen, but if you, you know, start talking on there, then that's when you'll get in trouble. All you need to watch out for is GMRS channels. GMRS are pretty much all the channels that you should not be on. So Just figure out what those channel ranges are between all the ones I listed. Just be wary of which ones you're on. If you just set yourself up with presets, it's no different than the Walkie Talkie at that point. You're pretty secure because you already know that you're gonna be on good channels, right? That goes for all of these radios right here. I know I was just kind of focusing on that, but that goes for these as well, all the same stuff. So looking at some accessories now, let's get into the headsets. So these are Replica comms headsets. Right here I have a Replica OpsCore amps. These I have no idea who makes them. It's just some Chinesium. This right here is Earmore. These are Liam's. Earmores are really, really good headsets for what they offer and for the price point. They are great, and they also do offer hearing protection as far as real steel capability. With all of these headsets now getting into this higher level, what they're gonna do is mitigate sound for you. They're gonna amplify small sounds, duck out high sounds, so to protect your ears, to let you hear into small footsteps. So I stated in a video before, I'll link it up above, talking about headsets. Replica comms are just not it. It's just a huge frustration that I've experienced, and for a lot of people, my opinion and my stance is I'm always gonna advocate against it. Replica comms, I've literally never gotten them to work. I've sat around, dicked around, bought a bunch of different PTTs, a bunch of different wires, all this stuff. I bought different comms. This is like my third or fourth pair of Replica comms throughout my time of trying them, and they have never worked. And the times that they do, they're extremely faulty. Either you are very low or they are super low when you hear them. You know, there's the whole debate too, using civilian versus like military plugs. I've used them both, man. I have a huge variety of radio stuff, and I can't get any of this shit to work. So just do yourself a favor, just stray away from this. Seriously, at that point, buy Earmores. I know they don't look as cool. If you want comms, just get this. We could circle back to, I'll bring into this PTT. If you want the Replica comms that look cool, you could always go through a Squawk Box. I did that for a while. You're not gonna be able to actually have a closed off comm system, right? The Earmores are a really good option. I think they are a really nice set of headsets. Like I said, they offer real steel capability. Obviously not the best in the world, but they function fine. That's the thing, they function, right? They do their job. You don't have to worry about it, and I guarantee you're not gonna be dicking around with the Earmores. I've never gotten one because just not my cup of tea. I just jumped to getting into real comms at that point. Now, against everything I just said about Replica comms, there is one set of Replica comms that I have found to work and that I have a couple pairs of just because I was so happy with the product. These are the FMA amps. So this is a Replica OpsCore amp. Pretty sure the FMA's quality would probably, you know, go alongside of their other replicas that they have, but I don't know for sure, right? I just recommend the amps. I'm not gonna fully recommend the other versions they make because who knows, maybe those don't work that well, but I've never had a problem with the amps. Real PTTs, civilian PTTs, and I have multiple of these amps and they all work just fine. So they are kind of pricey. At that point, I would just really recommend saving up for real comms. At the end of this video, you're just gonna see me say go for real comms because I think that's the better option. But yeah, FMA does work good. Now we're gonna look at a Replica PTT. So I've had multiple Replica PTTs. This technically isn't a replica, it's an Earmore, right? So it is its own PTT, but I've had, you know, like a Replica Peltor PTT and stuff. They work. That's the one thing, you know, it's like the Replica comms like never work. The PTTs, they do work. I've never had an issue with the PTT. It's always been the comms. You're pretty safe. I don't think I'd recommend getting the cheapest PTT out there. I really like the Earmore PTT. I've used it for a good amount of time. It's a very cheap alternative to getting into a closed off PTT system, and they're nice and rugged. Looking at wires, this is a NATO to a, you know, just standard headphone jack. So whatever kind of system you have there, that's an option. Antennas, so all of these radios right here, their antennas do come off. This is the Baofen antenna that you're gonna get with this radio. These are pretty garbage. Every single one of my friends that has one of these Baofens, this antenna has broken. Some options that I like, my personal favorite is going to be this gooseneck. The reason I really like this one is because it's all metal, so it's pretty indestructible. I've had this thing for a long time now. You know, you could bend it all around and nothing's gonna happen to it. It's really rugged and durable. All these other alternative options that have like rubber and plastics, I kind of just stray away from. But other options to look at, these are just some basic whip antennas. So these just work by, you could unfold them and they will stretch out like that. There's really tall ones. These will offer some really good range. The downside with a whip antenna is if you leave it bent, over time gonna destroy the quality of the signal. So you really shouldn't store them bent like this. A lot of people, you know, just for looks, keep them on their kit all bent up because that's what you do. But if you do that and you just leave it like that forever, you're degrading the quality of your antenna. Once again, why I prefer the gooseneck. It just always stays in its form and it's solid, right? So that's pretty much it. This can also really well integrate with real stuff and breach the real radio barrier. This is a Kenwood to 6-pin. So 6-pin plugs are what all standard military radios, at least nowadays, is using. The Kenwood is like more of a civilian option that all these Baofens use, right? Get one of these and then cut out the equation of using fake PTTs, because the quality of a real Peltor PTT or any PTT out there that's a real, you know, military grade PTT is going to be a lot higher. We'll circle back to this plug when we talk about some of the adjacent options, but yeah, Kenwood to 6-pin, very much recommend. All right, now moving on to level 3. This is getting into all real steel comm stuff. I'll let Liam just kind of demonstrate and talk about the radio first because he knows more.
This is the higher 152 replica. Obviously, you can see some very obvious differences, like a 6-pin port right here. Notice that the battery is different. With the AR152s, the battery has the whole back half attached to it, whereas this, you can just take it out, slide it out. It's this tiny little thing where you can just throw it in your backpack and not have to worry about it breaking at all. Also, this radio does take real 152 batteries, which are super cheap to get, super easy to charge too. It's its own little hub. So it's not like a stand. The real ones, you can get a stand for them, but this one doesn't take a stand. So some things about this radio, unlike the Baofens, you can't just plug in a push-to-talk and immediately be able to use it. There are some settings that you need to go through in here to set before you can do that. There's differences in like dynamic push-to-talks. I can't remember the other one. But you also need to make sure that corresponding with the type of push-to-talk that you have.
So yeah, one thing with this kind of radio too, you do unfortunately lose the capability to really set custom channels.
You can program this radio, but I've heard some reviews where if you try to program it and you mess something up, it breaks the radio and it just destroys it. I've never had to program this radio. I've been able to do everything just by the keypad. I'm not even quite sure what you can program on this radio. From the reviews I've heard, I think it's best to just stay away from that. Yeah, so there's a lever back here. If you're on a frequency with someone and they don't have a code that they can put in, it's gonna make the audio coming in and out sound muffled. It kind of adds a level of security. These aren't encrypted or have their own programming to make them super top secret, or else they would make them like super expensive, like the real military radios.
So there is one thing that this radio right here is gonna offer above all of them. This right here is the KDU. You can control your entire radio from this. You don't have to be, you know, pulling your radio out to mess with your buttons and to mess with your channels and everything.
Buttons corresponding to numbers. Type in my frequencies from here. It also provides a push-to-talk function. This allows me to run my radio anywhere and still be able to access it.
KDU, awesome option. You could really only get it with this level of radio. You know, Baofeng doesn't really make anything adjacent to that. Maybe one day they will. This is actually an all aluminum body. Every radio that we looked at prior to this was just plastic. So this thing is extremely rugged. You know, this is a freaking solid radio. It is heavy. It's the biggest radio on the list. This thing is huge.
Some people can notice that from afar and it kind of ruins the kit. This adds to it. So it definitely adds to the looks for the people that want that one-to-one accurate tactical Milsim kit.
That's pretty much the radio. These are great. The TRI is the best out of the two options of the Harris, right?
Yeah. One thing I will say about like real push-to-talks, I found this on eBay for cheaper than my Earmore PTT that goes into Kenwood. I've been able to source parts for this cheaper than the lower tier stuff.
I'll kind of briefly just throw this back into the equation because once again, this is what I use. This is all compatible with this, you know. You could get into the real comm setup and X out the radio because this is expensive. Like you said, it's like 300 bucks. As long as you get the Kenwood to 6-pin, you'll pretty much be good for everything else out there. Let's get into talking about some comms real quick. These right here are Peltor Comtac 5s. If you know anything about Airsoft, Milsim, all that kind of stuff, the military, I'm sure you're familiar with Peltors. That's pretty much the leading comms for the military. They're super good. Obviously, this is getting into real steel comms, so this is going to protect your ears very well from shooting real firearms and deliver a very quality experience. You could program them a little bit, like the EQ, to kind of offer a different sound profile, which is awesome. They sell Peltors with no down leads at all, so no plugins for comms, with single down leads, or this one right here is a dual down lead. So I could plug into 2 radios with this one headset and run 2 channels. The dual down leads come in from each ear corresponding to the plug. I could have a radio setup for like a general base command, and then my squad radio that's just for my guys. These right here are gel cups. This is kind of the preferred option that everyone goes to. Super comfortable. Over time, you do have to replace them because the gel kind of squishes. Way better than just like the foam cups that come with a lot of these comms. You know, when it comes to this kind of stuff, it's going to be the highest of quality. They're going to work great. They're going to pretty much work with everything. Some sellers are going to probably scalp you and try to get like 800 out of you, or there's some crazy deals where people buy these things for like 200 bucks. You just got to look for the right places, check out Discords and stuff like that. And you could see they're helmet mounted, which is really cool. You don't have to worry about a headband or anything. You just put the helmet on and your comms are going to be all set up. This right here is mine. This is my go-to, what I always go for. So these are MSA Sordins. This is a bit more of an old school comm headset. And these are, you know, once again, a real steel comm. MSAs, in my opinion, are great. These Sordins are freaking awesome. I actually think the sound profile on the Sordin is way cleaner than it is with the Peltors. The Peltors, there's a little bit of like muffling. When these are on, really doesn't even sound like you're wearing anything. I don't know what it is, but MSAs sound very, very nice. A lot of times they're cheaper than Peltors as well, which is nice. I got a very nice setup with this and then its own push-to-talk system. I think I spent like $150 for the whole setup. We'll get into that for the alternatives. They make modern ones with you know, NATO down leads. This is a half moon, so it's a little bit more old school. A lot of people say don't use that. But if you're into the retro kit and you have, you know, the will to make it work, you can make it work. These are Peltor 5s. You could find like 3s or 2s for like really cheap now. So yeah, there's a lot of options out there for real comms, more than what I'm just showing. And lastly, when it comes to PTTs, everything is gonna once again be the highest of quality. So this is an Ops Core PTT. This is a 6-pin to NATO. I'm pretty sure these are all amplified. Never had a problem with any of these. This is a Peltor, exactly the same thing, just a bigger profile. Those are gonna usually come with the Peltors. And then right here we have a Harris PTT. He was able to make it work and integrate with this. It's really rugged, unlike the B5. That's a great option. It's gonna be the highest price point, all this real stuff. You could probably get a comm setup for like 150 bucks to 24 grand or 30 grand, you know? It just depends. We're kind of talking about the expensive stuff. Let's see what Real has to offer as far as, you know, cheaper stuff. Now let's get into the unofficial level 4 of this video. So this is going to be kind of my picks for some alternative options, some other things to look at, like dead systems that you know, people aren't really using anymore, some more old school systems that you could still bring back to life nowadays. Because for someone like me who's really into like a lot of the retro stuff, there are PTT options and radio options that I want to, you know, revive and use. Let's get back to the Sordins, right? These are the more old school Sordins that have this half moon plug. It's not the standard, what you see nowadays, NATO plug. So with this Sordin, it came with a couple different down leads. This is all 10 pin. So 10 pin was kind of a standard for a good while. It's kind of ran its course and it's a little difficult to find things out about it. And so right here is my universal PTT. This is a push to talk that I always really wanted, because you see a lot of old school GWatt retro kits running these. I have right here just a 10 pin to 10 pin down lead, and then that tank plug to 10 pin down lead. That doesn't really serve me any good because it's hard to find any radios that go straight to 10 pin, right? Even here, I have this Kenwood to 6-pin, which that's what I use. Do some searching around on eBay. You can find a 10-pin to 6-pin, which is awesome, right? So that's how I was able to revive this. I go from the half moon into this, to the 10-pin, to the 6-pin in Kenwood. I know it's a lot of plugs, and I'm able to get it to work, even with my Baofen, right? So there you go. I have it fully set up, and it works fine. It works great, right? So it's really cool if you just spend some time, do your research. If there is a, you know, dead comm system out there, you have your option to bring it back. Just like anything, when it comes to some of the older gear, you're just gonna have to sit around looking for it until that day where you come across it, right? It took me a while to find that 10-pin to 6-pin, but I did, and this thing is working flawlessly, and I'm really proud of this setup, and I love it because I'm just such a big retro fiend, and it's like the perfect look with the Sordins and the universal PTT. So adjacent to that, and doing kind of more DIY setups before we get into the fully cheap versions, this is my Delta Force Black Hawk Down comm setup. Talk about dead comms that don't really exist that much anymore. So this right here is a NASCAR or racing headset. This is called a SetCom. These are from like the 80s or 90s or whatever. This is what Delta Force actually used back then. This one actually came with its own PTT, and I basically rigged all this stuff up and rewired it. So if you have the know-how, if you know how to solder, if you have the time to mess around with your comms, you can get stuff to work and really cheap out. You know, you could make your own kind of setup that would work really good. All this stuff was its own dedicated plug systems because it's for, you know, racing comms, and it's nowhere near, you know, the same to military stuff. Super proud of this project. You might expect this to be like some super crazy expensive thing because how rare it is. I actually got this thing for like, I don't know, like I think 80 bucks. It's still kind of pricey. I'm just kind of showing you this because if you have the know-how to DIY, you could really cheap out. A lot of times when it comes to replica stuff, it's the comms that are the problem. This down lead right here is a replica down lead. It works just fine. It's just literally the comms don't work. And my last final talking point, there's a level of older comms that are going to be really cheap. For example, I have right here, this is early 2000s Harris headset. This is just a single ear, and this thing works perfectly. It comes with its own PTT. It's built right into it, and then it goes right into the 6-pin. So if you get that Kenwood to 6-pin adapter, it's gonna work perfectly for any comm setup, right? I think I spent 15 bucks on this thing. It was like insanely cheap, really stupid cheap on eBay. There's other systems out there, like there's Astro comms, some of their older systems, and they're gonna work. If you see anything like these older ones where it's 5-pin instead of 6, 5 and 6-pin do work together. So honestly, you could really cheap out on a comm system just by getting, you know, a Baofen, even a Walkie Talkie. Then you could get the Kenwood to 6-pin plug and then get something like this for like 15 bucks, and you have a real comm setup, real steel quality that's gonna work just fine. You could even cut the comms out of the equation and just go back to a push to talk, plug it into your radio, and you're good to go. So hopefully showing you all this stuff kind of gives you a different perspective on comms. It's not the most expensive thing in the world to go for a real steel setup. It may not be exactly what you're looking for, because if you want to go replica, you're pretty assed out in a lot of cases, and you just have to jump to buying, you know, the real Peltors or whatever. But if you're looking for pure functionality and you want something that is high quality, it's not that hard to get. It's very obtainable. Look on eBay, look for resellers on Instagram, Facebook, check your Discords. That's how you really get some good deals. So with all that out of the way, I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Now you kind of know how to calm up with your buddies. Maybe I could make a separate video talking about how to link up with your friends and make that really easy. Make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Get us to 5,000 guys. Check out the Discord down below. Once again, if you're looking to buy something obscure for a cheap price, our Discord has a marketplace. People are always putting stuff up in there. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.